I just got this text message yesterday from this guy. So, hi, I'm Gemini in Google Messages. Chat with me, draft messages, brainstorm ideas, plan events, or simply have a fun conversation. So I just wanted to, give it a try. Who came first, Santa or the Easter Bunny? The Easter Bunny traditionally likely came first. Concept of an Easter hare bringing eggs is traced back to German folklore in the 16th century, while Santa Claus roots likely stem from St. Nicholas of Myra in the 4th century, but the modern Santa Claus image developed much later. And I forgot why it said it, repeated it. So, did the Easter Bunny have a name? No. Is there any Anglo-Saxon goddess? Oh, is there ever an Anglo-Saxon goddess whose name is associated with Easter? Yes, the Anglo-Saxon goddess is Eostre. Eostre is believed to be the namesake for Easter. Her name is linked to the word East, which is associated with spring and new beginnings, while details about her are scarce, she is likely spring goddess. So then I got into this, can you give me a list of all the months? Oh, and then it bring this guy. I'm going to get into this guy later on. The first association of the goddess Eostre with Easter comes from the writings of the Venerable Bede. In the 8th century, Bede claimed that the Anglo-Saxon month Eostermonat, Easter month, was named after a goddess called Eostre. Can you give me a list of all the Anglo-Saxon months that were associated with the months of the year? I meant to put in the 8th century. Here are the Anglo-Saxon months. It gets into it. So what stood out to me here was their word for month is that last letter that looks like a P and a B, a lowercase P and B combined. So after it gave me the equivalence, it's great. You're welcome. Can we talk about the word used for month? Absolutely. The word used for month in Anglo-Saxon is mona. It's related to Old English word mona, which means moon. This reflects that the Anglo-Saxon months were based on lunar cycles similar to many ancient calendars. What is the last letter in it? I don't identify it. I cannot identify it, sorry. The last letter in monath is thorn. It's an Old English letter representing the voiceless dental fricative sound similar to the TH in thin. Can you write my name in Old English? It is Timothy Noah Caffrey. While directly transliterating modern names into Old English can be imprecise, here's a possible approximation of your name in Old English. Timotheus Noah Caffrey is a breakdown of the choice. Timotheus is the closest equivalent, Old English equivalent to Timothy. Noah Caffrey didn't exist because they didn't have surnames. Can you write your name in Old English? And then it says, unfortunately, I don't have a name. In the traditional sense, I am a large language model. However, if I were to transliterate my name into Old English using existing words, it could be something like Geminig Werdum, which translates to common words. This reflects my ability to process and generate text. I thought your name was Gemini. You're correct. Gemini is indeed my name. I apologize for any confusion. And I have to scroll up to double check that, just to be clear. I can't translate Gemini into Old English as it's a Latin word and wouldn't have a direct equivalent. Okay, back to the months in Old English. We get into the months. It talks about this month. And then it starts saying, unfortunately, there's no records of any specific animals associated with the Anglo-Saxon goddess. I can't even pronounce this one. Reda. Our knowledge about Reda is limited, and details about her symbols or companions are scarce. Why are records so scarce for Anglo-Saxons when they are so significant in history? The scarcity of records for the Anglo-Saxons, despite the historical significance, can be attributed to a few reasons. Limited writing practices. Early Anglo-Saxons primarily relied on oral traditions. Widespread literacy came later with the spread of Christianity, which is very important because literacy is the same way that I claim that these people would associate with the Illuminati. Literacy is their weapon of conquest. Just chew on that. And they used Islam to spread literacy in the unconquerable Arab land. Loss of material, many early written records, likely unperishable materials like parchment, may not have survived. Viking invasions. The Vikings raided and destroyed monasteries, which were some of the main centers of literacy and record keeping during the time. However, there are still resources available to piece together Anglo-Saxon history, such as Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, a compilation of annals recording historical events. Archaeology, unearthed artifacts and settlements provide valuable insights. Venerable Bede's writings, a monk who documented Anglo-Saxon history and culture. Did the Vikings ever sack London? So then I get into some pretty, I don't know if it's in depth. I think it's pretty good. I mean, and I really actually read all this, engaged in all this. I mean, it kept autocorrecting, kept messing me up big time. Or not autocorrecting, text, talk to text. So I wanted to know if his name Sven, is it Sven Forkbeard or just Sven Forkbeard? And then it says, so no, the sound V is not typical, so it messed up. Right? Here's the correct one. Sorry, text misspelled, okay. Thank you, you're welcome. Oh no, it said in both Sven and Swen, the V is not pronounced like a V in voice. It is more like the W sound. So you would say Swen or Swain. Okay, you're welcome. Who did the King of England, when he fled to Normandy, seek refuge under? The King of England who fled Normandy sought refuge didn't need to rely on any one person for protection. He had familial ties to the region. He went to Normandy. King of England in question was most likely Ethelred the Unready. Normandy is a region in northern France, had close ties with England, as many Vikings had settled there in previous centuries. Refuge. Ethelred's wife Emma was a daughter of Richard the Fearless, Duke of Normandy. So when he fled England in 1013, he sought refuge with his in-laws, leveraging his family connection for safety. So it was the king who fled, and you see moniker, oh, unready. I meant to see unready. Was a king who fled and used the moniker unready. That's what I meant to say. Of Nordic descent or Anglo-Saxon descent. Ethelred the Unready was of Anglo-Saxon descent. The moniker unready was likely referred to his perceived failures to effectively defend England against Viking invasions, not his ethnicity. Did he return to London after Swain died? Yes, Ethelred the Unready did return to London after Swain died in 1014. Here's a breakdown of the events. 1013, Swen Forkbeard besieged London and forced Ethelred to flee to Normandy. February 1014. Swain Forkbeard unexpectedly died. Invitation to return. Seen an opportunity, the English nobility and London sent a delegation to Normandy inviting Ethelred to return to his throne. There were likely conditions attached to Ethelred's return, with the nobility wanting him to address some of their grievances. However, he was ultimately restored as King of England. Unfortunately, Ethelred's reign remained turbulent. He faced renewed Viking invasions under Swen's son, Canute the Great, and eventually died in 1016. How old was he when he died? Ethelred the Unready was most likely around 48 years old when he died, but the exact birth is not known. Okay. Is he the king that established the Shire Reeve? No, Ethelred the Unready is not credited with establishing the Shire Reeve position. The office of Shire Reeve, which evolved into the sheriff role, predates his reign by centuries. The origin of the Shire Reeve traced back to Anglo-Saxon England, likely established sometime before the year 700 AD. Kings at that time appointed these officials to oversee administrative duties within shires, which were subdivisions similar to counties today. Was Ethelred part of an English family dynasty like the Roman Claudio Julians or the Flavians? Yes, Ethelred the Unready was part of an English royal dynasty, though not as formally established as the Roman dynasties you mentioned. Here's a breakdown. House of Wessex. Ethelred belonged to the House of Wessex. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Rise to power. Over time, Wessex king gained control. Blah, 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 blah. Less structured. Unlike the Roman dynasties, the House of Wessex didn't follow a strictly hereditary line of succession. Power struggles and occasionally violent transitions were not uncommon. Pause. Alright, back to business. The House of Wessex reigned in England for a substantial period, though with some interruptions. Their rule traditionally began with Egbert 802 through Wessex. Kingdom itself existed centuries before, and the Norman conquest 1066 marked the end of their reign. Interruptions, there were brief periods of Danish rule between 1013 and 1042. Therefore, the House of Wessex ruled England for approximately 264 years with some interruptions by Danish kings. Who were the next family to rule English? Now, this is where it gets interesting. I'm still learning how to answer this question. In the meantime, try Google search. When did the Tudors rule England? The Tudor dynasty ruled England from 1485 to 1603. This period is known. See the game that I'm playing here? I'm trying to teach it in one sense. I don't know the answer to be serious, but I know that there is an answer and I know how to get to it. This period is known as the Tudor period and saw significant political, religious, and cultural changes in England. Did the Plantagenet family ever rule England? Yes, the Plantagenet dynasty ruled England for a remarkably long period of time from 1154, see how I did that, to 1485. Their reign was marked by territorial expansion, legal advancements, and the development of English culture. When did the legend of King Arthur come into play in English culture? The legend of King Arthur began circulation in Welsh poetry around the 6th or 7th century AD. However, it wasn't until Godfrey of Monmouth, the influential book Historia Regum Britanniae, History of the Kings of Britain, around 1136, that Arthur became a central figure in English literature and culture. Who was the first monarch of the Plantagenet family? Henry II is considered the first Plantagenet king of England, though the nickname Plantagenet wasn't used at the time he ruled from 1154 to 1089. If they didn't use that nickname, what name did they use? The Plantagenets weren't referred to by a collective name during their reign. They were simply known as the Angevin kings, named after the French territory Anjou. The Plantagenet name emerged much later in the 15th century. Can you break down the etymology of the name Plantagenet? The name Plantagenet comes from the Latin phrase plantagenista, meaning broom sprig. According to legend, Geoffrey of Anjou, the ancestor of the Plantagenet dynasty, wore a broom blossom as a badge, thus acquiring the nickname Plantagenet. Can you show me an image of this blossom he wore on his badge? Certainly. Here's an image of the broom blossom. Did it have any medicinal properties back then? Yes, broom blossom were believed to have medicinal properties. In the 12th century, they were used in ointment to treat gout, which is considered a king's disease, interestingly enough. What I found interesting, at least. And in drinks to alleviate digestive issues. When did the nickname first become associated with the family dynasty? The nickname Plantagenet first became associated with the family dynasty in the mid-15th centuries, around the reign of the first Plantagenet king, Henry II. I don't really get that. Was there a Henry I? Yes, there was a Henry I. He ruled England from 1100 to 1135 and was the fourth son of William the Conqueror. So he was Nordic and not Anglo-Saxon. Henry's the first ethnicity is a bit more complex than Nordic or Anglo-Saxon. Here's a breakdown. Paternal lineage. His father, William the Conqueror, was indeed of Nordic descent. William was a Duke of Normandy, a region in northern France that had been settled by Vikings centuries earlier. Maternal lineage. His mother, Matilda of Flanders, was not Anglo-Saxon. Flanders was a region that is now part of Belgium of northern France. While that area had some Viking influence, her ancestry was likely a mix of Germanic and Frankish peoples. Therefore, Henry the First wouldn't be neatly categorized as just Nordic or Anglo-Saxon. He was a product of the Norman conquest of England, which brought together elements of both cultures. Did the Plantagenet family ever associate themselves with Charlemagne or the Carolingian dynasty? No, there's no evidence that the Plantagenet family ever associated themselves with Charlemagne or the Carolingian dynasty. Their claims to legitimacy stem from their Angevin heritage in France, not the Carolingians who ruled centuries earlier. Were any other monarchs in Europe associated with the Angevin heritage beyond the English king Henry II, Richard I, and John? There weren't any other. Okay, did the Tudors have a relationship with the? What happened here? That's what I didn't even notice that when I wrote this last night. So did the Tudors have a relationship? I meant to have the Borgia right there. Just the Borgia family when they were in the papacy, and then it gave me this answer text messed up. Did the Tudors have a relationship? And it did it again. I didn't even notice that. The Tudors never held the papacy, so let me see. Did the Tudor family ever have any dealings with the Borgia family during the papacy of Alexander VI? Had to get very clear. Yes, the Tudor family had some dealings with the Borgia family during the reign of Pope Alexander VI, 1492 to 1503. I'm watching the Borgia TV series right now, Faith and Fear. And so Henry VII maintained a generally positive relationship with the papacy, including Alexander VI. This helped solidify Henry's claim to the English throne. Henry VIII, as a young prince, this is very interesting, briefly considered marrying one of Alexander VI's daughters, Lucrezia Borgia. This potential alliance never materialized. That would have been crazy. When did Henry VIII cut England away from the Vatican? Henry VIII's break with the Vatican, okay. The Act of Supremacy in 1534. The Act made Henry the supreme head of the Church of England, effectively severing England's ties to the Pope's authority. When was the Bar Gate built in London? There are actually 2 bar gates. I was trying to make a point here, but I actually learned something instead. The original Temple Bar Gate, first mentioned in 1293. It was likely a basic structure with a chain across posts. A wooden gatehouse followed in 1351. The Temple Bar Gate, designed by Christopher Wren, this more elaborate stone gate replaced the older structure between 1669 and 1672. Was there a bar association in England? No, that's actually correct. Is there? Yes, there is a bar association in England. The main representative body of barristers, trial lawyers in England and Wales is the General Council of the Bar, also known as the Bar Council. It promotes upholding high quality legal advocacy, fair access to justice, and ethical standards within the provision. When was it first established? The Bar Council of England and Wales was established in 1894. So is the church that Henry VIII established considered to be Protestant? Yes. The Church of England is Protestant. The break with the Catholic Church stemmed from Henry's desire to... Okay, so when did Martin Luther have his Reformation? Martin Luther... And I didn't go back up, so my memory wasn't able to recall the date, so I wasn't sure who came first here. So I'm trying to clarify for myself, too, without having to go back up. Martin Luther's Reformation is generally considered to have begun in 1517 when he posted the 95 Theses on the doors of Castle Church in Wittenberg, Germany. These theses challenged the Catholic Church authority and practices, particularly the sales of indulgences. Was he inspired by Henry VIII? No, Martin Luther was not inspired by Henry VIII. In fact, they had opposing views on religious reforms. Luther, a key figure in the Protestant Reformation, he criticized the Catholic Church practices and doctrine. Henry VIII, initially a defender of Catholicism, he broke with the Pope due to his personal reasons, desire for an annulment, and established the Church of England, which remained relatively close to Catholicism in many aspects. Okay, just for clarification, can you please give me the years that Henry VIII established his church and when Martin Luther... And I'm doing all of this in text. Actually, I started... After this point, I think I started doing more typing because I'm getting frustrated with this inaccuracy of the text. Here's a quick breakdown. Martin Luther's Reformation, 1517. Okay, and then that's where I got to see, oh, I get it, 1534, I see, okay. Did Martin Luther ever express any opinions about Henry VIII? Yes, Martin Luther did express opinions about Henry VIII through times evolved, okay, just whatever. You get this, you can see it if you want. How long was it before there was another Catholic king in England? This is an interesting answer. There wasn't another Catholic king in England after Henry VIII. The Act of Supremacy and it established the Church of England, the official religion, making the permanent separation from the Catholic. James II, who ruled from 1685 to 1688, was the last Catholic claimant to the English throne, but he was ultimately deposed by the Glorious Revolution due to his Catholic faith. The subsequent monarchs adhered to Protestantism. Is that the King James Bible? No. The James of the King James Bible is not James II of England. Here's a clarification. King James Bible translated by scholars, and I think my dyslexia kicks in because I had a difficult time following this. During the reigns of King James I, James VI of Scotland, of England in the early 17th century. James II ruled England in the late 17th century and was the last Catholic monarch. Were they related? Yes, James I and James II of England were related. James II was the son of James I. So please clarify. The Glorious Revolt, Revolution, killed King James I, but put his son King James II on the throne. I apologize for any mistake. See, I jumped to conclusions there. There seems to be some confusion in my previous answer regarding the Glorious Revolution and the English monarch. Here's a clarification. The Glorious Revolution did not involve the death of any king. It took place in 1688 and resulted in the overthrow of King James II, who was a Catholic. King James I, also King James VI of Scotland, was a Protestant king. He ruled from 1603 to 1625 and is associated with the translation of the King James Bible. King James II, son of King James I, was a Catholic king deposed in the Glorious Revolution. He was succeeded by his Protestant daughter Mary and her husband William of Orange, who became joint monarchs. So the order of events is: James I, Protestant, rules England. James II, Catholic, succeeds his father. The Glorious Revolution disposes James II due to his Catholicism. James II's daughter Mary and her husband William, both Protestant, become joint monarchs. That was my misunderstanding. I mixed it up I apologize. No worries, it's perfectly understandable. It can be easy to get confused. Hold on. Okay, back on. No worries, perfectly understandable. It can get confused. It can be easy to get confused with English history, many monarchs, and religious conflicts. Is there anything else? Who was the first monarch of England to convert to Christianity? The first Anglo-Saxon king to convert to Christianity was Ethelbert of Kent. He converted around 601 after being influenced by Augustine, a missionary sent by Pope Gregory the Great. Is that the Pope Gregory from which we get the Gregorian calendar? Yes, that's the same Pope Gregory. Pope Gregory the First, also known as Gregory the Great, is credited with reforming the Christian calendar, which later became known as the Gregorian calendar. Was William the Conqueror a Christian? Yes, William the Conqueror was a Christian. He was Duke of Normandy, a region in northern France that was Christian. Was he a member of the House of Orange? No, William the Conqueror was not a member of the House of Orange. The House of Orange is a Dutch noble family that rose to prominence much later in European history. William the Conqueror was a descendant of Viking who settled in Normandy, France. How many Nordic countries still have royal families? Now this is where all this to get to this point right here. When I do these kind of conversations with ChatGPT, actually, I don't have ChatGPT on this. Never mind. Oh, I guess I could do it like this. Oh my gosh. Let me get back to that. No, shoot, darn. There we go. So on my other phone, here's my ChatGPT. Come on. So if I go over here, I got all these conversations. Okay. Jeez, I got all these conversations. Now the catch is, when I have these conversations, it's very adamant that my cutoff time is like something like January 2021. So for me, this was interesting because, so I put 3 Nordic countries with families. Okay, Denmark, Sweden, Norway. Okay, and then I can can you tell me 3 houses? All right, they tell me the house of Luxembourg, Sweden, house of Bernadotte, which I can associate sort of with Bern, Switzerland, but I don't know what it is. I didn't get into that. My brain made a mental note. Can you give me the names of the current monarchs? Now this was a test. Okay, certainly, here are the current monarchs. So now the Google system does not have the limitations that ChatGPT does. It's current and up to date. Certainly, here are the current monarchs of the 3 Nordic countries with royal families. Denmark, Queen Margaret II. Sweden, King Carl. Are any of these related by blood to the current monarch of England? I'm still learning how to answer this question. In the meantime, try Google search. Who is the current monarch of England? I'm still learning how to answer this question. Okay, so then I'm exploring. I'm trying to teach it and learn how it's working too. When did Queen Elizabeth II of England, and when I spoke it didn't put 2, so I had to type this, of England die. Queen Elizabeth II passed away on September 8th, 2022. And I was like, oh, who succeeded her as monarch? Queen Elizabeth was succeeded by her eldest son, Charles. And I'm like, oh, when did Charles II rule England? So I got into little. Charles II ruled England from 1660 to 1665. He is known as a, how did he die? Okay, basically kidney problems, people. Is Charles III related to any of the current Scandinavian monarchs? I'm starting to learn how to answer that question. By this point, you could see the conversation was really long. And I use a lot of brain power, and I was trying to watch some shows at home, and I wanted to cut off my brain. So I was like, okay, thanks for the awesome conversation, and I learned a lot. You're doing a great job. Okay, blah, 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 blah.